start from there. Good morning, everybody. The way to tell how an economy is doing, really, in simple language, is to look at what's going on in its securities market. For instance, how is the NSE 20 share index and all share index doing? Now, the last year, both the NSE 20 share index and the NSE all share index have dropped to the point of 30%. Now, the story is with, if you look at, for instance, market capitalization, meaning the value of the shares that are in the market. If you look at market capitalization, this last year of Kenya Kwanza regime, market capitalization in the NSE has gone down about 29-30%. Meaning, whatever you had put, if you had, for instance, put in 1 million shillings in the NSE, it is now less in terms of value. If you sold it, you would lose 30% of that. Million shillings, that means you'd lose how much? 300,000. So your worth is now 700,000. That is what is going on in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And it is not about the earnings. It's not that the companies that are listed are not profitable. They are profitable. In fact, the profitability has remained steady at about 60%. However, the price to earnings ratio has been halved from 5.3 times. I mean, at the last 3 years of Uhuru's regime, the price to earnings ratio has been about 10 times. Meaning, your price, the share you buy, you will earn at least 10 times more in earnings of the share price that you get. That is now down to 5 times in the last year. So the NSE is a barometer. There you will tell exactly how Ruto's regime has done substantively on matters economy. I want to address just 3 issues in the social pillar, and I'll start with the education sector. As people who have looked at this sector, you will realize in the last year, the education sector has been perhaps one of the most disastrous sectors. In fact, we are saying that it has been so disastrous that even Parliament themselves said that the 2022 examinations were the worst conducted. They were marred with malpractices. Cheating is back. Now, the area where the CS is from or government officials are from must be ranked higher in examinations, and we have seen that. And we are saying that we have successfully, the Ruto regime has successfully ingrained malpractices and examination integrity issues. And the truth is, in the fullness of time, we will pay. We will pay because we're going to be producing mediocre people into the market, and Kenya will pay. So there are a few issues. Yesterday's newspapers reported very well on issues of capitation, not getting into the education institutions. That is clear, and it is across the board. The issues of increased price of education. I mean, the price of education in this country during the Ruto regime has increased by 225%, causing a huge issue and a huge burden, especially because many of these parents are already burdened by the issues of cost of living. We have seen lots of stories around implementation of the CBC, and we think that the government should be concentrating on policy and resourcing the CBC and not finding out if the system works or it doesn't work. Because by the time CBC was operationalized, a research had been conducted that would be the way forward. Corruption is back in a big way if you look at what's going on in the TSE and the NEC. And I know that when they were reading the budget, they told us that the education sector is the greatest gainer of that budget. I think it currently is at 27.6% of the current budget. And this money is going to TSE. However, the money is going to pay teachers to get more, to advance their popularist sort of agenda. And now what we are seeing in weekends, and I think the Fourth Estate is here, they have reported that as well. Over the weekends, MPs have letters that they're issuing to hire teachers and watu waingie kwa jeshi. So the role of TSC has essentially been politicized, and this in my view should be should be regularized. The issues of the Kenya National Examination Council, leaking examinations, and everything that goes on in KNC has become more alive in the last year or so. Issues of inequality in education between public and private schools, both in the have been more pronounced this year. Promised, and on the right side of my slide, you will see the many promises, and I know the media has highlighted that a lot of times. But one that is clear is that they actually had indicated that they would invest in research and bring to life the Science Technology Innovations Act of 2013 that then proposes an increase of resources, the resources that go into research from 0.8% of the GDP to 2% of the GDP, which has not happened, essentially. If we go into health, health has been another disaster. What this regime is trying to do is claw back on devolution. Health is a devolved function. And we realize that it was devolved, however, the resources have remained at the top. This last budget, 37 billion, was put to the national government. What business does the national government have to do with health when the people dealing with healthcare are the governors? So we have seen issues of clawing back on devolution, especially in the health sector. The other day you had the CS mention that they would like to now establish an emergency fund. I mean, it's the most obnoxious thing that can happen. If you have an emergency today in the village, do you go to Kenyatta Hospital in Nairobi, or do you go to the dispensary next to you? You go to the dispensary next to you. So what the government should actually be doing is to strengthen primary health care, so that if there is an emergency, then the person goes and is treated at the primary level. That's not happening. We are seeing the funds being retained at the national government level. It has been established that universal health coverage across the globe is the way to go. Now, in Huru's regime, there was 4 pilot counties that had been earmarked to pilot universal health coverage. I come from Nyeri, which was one of the pilot counties. Now, in that 1 year, we were able to conduct a research that then determined how many indigents, how many people cannot pay for healthcare. The same was handed over, we want to believe, to Ruto's regime. So we want to ask, what happened to universal health coverage? When they report about it these days, it sounds like a new phenomena that they're not understanding. And ideally, all the research said was strengthen the primary healthcare system. Give more money to the dispensaries, to the health centers, and to the community health volunteers and the community health workers. One of the promises that they had made was that they would have a core pay system between national government and county government on how CHVs are paid. That we have not seen work, because governors are the ones in charge of primary health care. The truth of the matter is that there's been a 200% increase of primary health care prices across the country. If you go to the dispensary next to you, and it's your homework this weekend, what you are paying 50 shillings to access, they call it a card, tunalipa pesa ya card, it's a copay really. Today is about 200 shillings. So there's a 200% increase of primary health care. So essentially, what does that do? It limits access, and it limits people from accessing healthcare. The collapse of NHIF, we have all seen what's been going on with NHIF. They had promised that, in fact, NHIF would be free by December of 2022. That is a promise on record. We have seen them dancing around the issue, cutting it up into different funds that really don't make sense. And all we are saying is NHIF requires just a little structuring, and it was working perfectly. If you listen to the CS, and she said that it was structured for employed people, that there's nothing that is further from the truth, because people who are not employed were paying NHIF through a pay bill, and that would have just worked perfectly. The issues of go-slows, you've seen the go-slows, and go-slows are occasioned by delays in salaries across, across all spectra. Make your dispensary is open, like my dispensary in my village is opened 2 days in a week. So 2 out of 7 days. The other 5 days, you can't access primary health care, in the villages. Why? There's go-slows, and I think we recently received a strike notice from the doctors. The inequality in access in rural areas, I've already talked about that. We have seen corruption and mismanagement, especially in KEMSA. The resource allocation, like I alluded to before, in counties, to counties, and the UHC agenda, which has remained, by and large, undone. If we move to social development and gender, if there are people who have been woodwinked in this regime and by this regime, it is the women of this country. Everything from the pre-election promises of how many women will be in cabinet and how women will have access to markets and, all those promises have been not met, but they have been broken. So the gender issue is a big issue, and, you can just go and research the many promises that were promised to women, and all of them have been broken. From the free diapers for our children when we deliver, to Linda Mama, which was a fantastic program that had been initiated by the previous regime, now not working, to the full implementation of anti-FGM laws. So the gender issue, in our view, this government has really not looked at the gender matters. There's been poor access to retirement benefits. I think I saw that reported. And the reason why you cannot access your retirement benefits in this regime is that NSSF has been forced to invest in government. If you look at who is buying the bonds in the Nairobi Securities Exchange every day, just last week day before yesterday, they raised 34 billion. Who is buying? It is NSSF that is buying. It is a few banks. So ideally, your money, which you're supposed to access when you retire, has been put in long-term bonds in the stock market, and therefore people cannot access their retirement benefits. Delays of payments, both in Linda Mama and Inua Mama, Linda Mama and Inua Jamii. I already talked to that. The last is the issue of youth. This is pretty straightforward. The issue of the Talanta Hela scandal. The issue of the Talanta... Oh, sorry. I didn't carry you along. My bad. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. The last one is the issue of youth sports and the creative economy. There's been a huge... scandal around Talanta Hela that we also, the president launching and, having an acrobatic feat in, I think, wherever they were launching, saying that they have launched a program that called Talanta Hela. And in exactly 2 weeks after that, Gladys Boss-Sholei goes and says there is nothing like Talanta Hela, it was a scam. So youth sports, once again, has been nothing but disastrous. You have heard about the issue of the Paralympics team. There are athletes complaining of delayed payments or non-payments at all, corruption and mismanagement of their funds against a myriad of promises that included even free internet in all markets and in all schools within first 100 days of these people being in government. So I'll not go through the promises, but in our view, the youth, sports, and the creative economy, which was a great ticket item for them, remains largely undone. With those few remarks, allow me now to welcome P.S. Torome to take us through housing. Thank you.